Hello and welcome back. I know it has been a while since I haven't streamed anything, like 10 seconds, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to have as well here the amigo Adam Sandman. Welcome,
Hello.
amigo.
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm
I'm
excited
super
to be
happy.
here.
It's been, I think, he's one of the other friends that the amigos in conferences that I walk into at every conference. I'm super happy to see you around on most of them. But I never had the opportunity to do some talk to him. Like, I mean, at a personal level,
Right,
yeah, we
right,
were
right,
here and
for
there
sure.
sharing some stories. And but now we had some time. I was like, I'm gonna bring Adam. Amigo Adam, thank you for coming by.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. We've talked a lot around the booth and at the conference, but never on the show. So I feel honored to be here and meet your viewers and talk tech, fun, Vegas, whatever it is. Let's
Ooh, Vegas,
make it
that's gonna
happen.
be a dangerous one.
Oh yes.
No, and if that face seems familiar, you may recognize him from some other streams like walking around the Star East, walking around the Star West, walking around. Where else did I saw you? Curity Highway? No,
Agile testing days,
Agile Testing
Eurostar.
Days.
I've
That's the
done.
other one where I saw you.
Yeah,
Yeah. So he also is very present at conferences, representing Inflectra, giving talks
that's
as
right.
well.
Thank you.
But uh, before everything, I always like to give the people an opportunity to do an introduction. Who are you? What are you doing? And what are your whereabouts?
Oh, well, my name's Adam, and again, nice to be here. And I'm the CEO and founder of Inflectra. We're a software company that focuses on helping clients, deliver software faster, with higher quality and reducing their risk. And I've been involved in the technology industry for so many years. I started programming when I was 10.
No way,
Yeah,
really?
back in the early 80s, I used to write computer games. And my parents couldn't afford a computer, so I would go to the local shops or stores and use the ones there, write my code, and then I would in BASIC, and they would write it out on paper and then take it back and then come back to the store the next day and write the next bit. And
No
then
way. So
eventually I
you
bought a
were going
computer.
like the Radio Shacks
Yeah,
and
it
getting
was
the
a British. It's in Britain, but it's the equivalent of Radio Shack or Best Buy. They had the computers out there, like the old Commodores and things, and I can write some code. And some of the computer games I wrote are actually on the internet, running under emulators, so you can actually find them online still, which is pretty cool.
Is there any way that people can look for them?
Yeah,
or
I
search?
can give you the link afterwards.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
we'll share the links here on the video description and later on LinkedIn.
They actually run in a web browser, and they're running the Chrome browser under emulation. It's just crazy. These are computers that they were the fastest thing you could do on that computer, and now you can run it on a web browser running in complete emulation.
It sounds like Doom, like you can put it like in a calculator or
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
Wow, I'm super curious. I'm gonna go and check this, and it's super fun because when you describe this, I was doing something similar, but video games, and like I didn't have like the console, and like let's go and play on Sears or some places and Radio Shacks. I remember getting into them. But you were developing, you were programming.
Right. And I tried writing games, but I wasn't very good at making them fast enough. So I actually wrote software that was more like application software. I was going on a trip to another country, so I wrote a word processor that could handle multiple languages because they didn't exist on the platform at the time. I did a program that could let you draw maps and draw things, and I could use that to write other software. And I wrote some adventure games. I did some games as well. But most of the stuff I enjoyed doing the most was software that helped people do useful things. And so I went to university, did a degree in physics, and then I realized that really my passion was computers and writing things to help people. So lo and behold, 16 years ago, I started a software company. And so you ask people in my high school, oh, look what I'm doing now. They go, well, of course you do that. We knew that. You didn't know that. We could have told you. We saw that coming a mile away. Like, really? I thought I was going to be a scientist and work in a lab.
Like, you probably over there. Were you on the States and university?
No, UK. I went to university in the UK.
Away.
Yeah, exactly. In the UK, and then came to America in '98 after college.
Okay, and this is really interesting because you're the second physicist today here at the interviews doing IT.
Really?
Which I was telling that any experience with Wolfram Mathematica?
I used a little bit of Mathematica back in the day, and there was another one called Maple. There were some modeling programs. I did a little bit of it. I must admit, not that much. But I do remember our physics lab, they couldn't afford new computers because it was in Britain and they're a bit short of cash. And so they got a bunch of old Next computers that Stanford was throwing out.
Oh,
So we got to use the old Next computers. And again, this is when they were a little bit less popular. Of course, they became Mac OS X, and
because they were the
so
competition for Texas Instruments or something like that,
they were
right?
bought by Apple. Well, they were bought by Apple. Apple. It was Steve Jobs' second company after Apple, and he built the whole new UI on top of Unix, and it became Mac OS
Next.
X. Yeah, next.
Oh, okay,
Next step.
okay.
Yeah, next step. Yeah, next was the Cube computer. And I'm like, wow, this is really neat. And then the first browser came along, I think it was Mosaic running on Next. And we're like, this is going to change the world. And it did.
It kind of did.
Yeah, it kind of did. And AI might do that soon. Oh, changing the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, there's some new news with
The new
Apple
news,
that
yeah.
just happened.
Oh, the headset. Yeah, the virtual reality
That's,
headset. For sure.
I am dying to try it, but I saw the price tag and they're like, ooh.
Business expense now.
It's I don't know.
Was it 3? Is it 3,000, 4,000?
Yeah, 3,500
Okay,
or something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
I'm like, oh wow, okay, no, not yet. I hope that that's always with Apple, but okay, we are on a tangent.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. So you came to the US, and how was the first from jobs, and how it ended up in Inflectra being created?
So that's a good question. So I came over in '98, and we were very lucky because, as you know, it's hard to come to America.
Oh, in
visas
98.
and
We
well,
know
it was
what
a bit-
happened
It was
just
a
2
bit
years
easier then.
later.
So it was a bit easier then because you had the millennium bug, which is everyone's trying to fix computers to work
Oh,
for the
cool.
millennium, and then we had the .com boom in 2000. So it was actually, as an IT person, or an aspiring IT person, there was a shortage of people here, and a lot of jobs for people here who needed to do computers, and the visas were much easier than they were now, unfortunately, or fortunately then, but unfortunately now. So I was very lucky. So I got to get an H-1 visa, came to America, and even though I had no formal skills in software, I had a physics degree. When I went to Sapien, they said, "Well, you wrote software as a hobby. You've obviously built some websites. We're trying to do more internet stuff, so you could teach us some things." And they said, "Well, we'll try you out. We'll give it a shot." Usually we have other scientists who've turned out well, who've had technical skills, and so they hired me to become a junior developer. Worked there till 2006, and it was around that time that I had a young family. And the lifestyle as a consultant wasn't as conducive raising a family, the travel and the hours. And so I actually became a stay-at-home dad for a year. And then during that time, I was getting a little restless and bored. And so I'd always wanted to help software testing get better, because at the time when I was working at Sapient, we didn't have, and we couldn't afford, well, the clients wouldn't pay for anyway, software testing tools. So we did everything in-house. We used Excel sheets and Word documents to manage testing. Any automation had to be built from scratch. And so I said, well, there's a huge demand here for affordable, easy to use testing software and test management software. And I said to a friend, I could write software as good as that. It wouldn't cost that much to sell. And he says, well, go on then and do it. So I took the challenge, and I basically wrote the first version of our first product. And that is how the company started. And then we kind of grew from there.
Like snowballed. It's very interesting because I see a pattern here at the beginning. There's no budget for this type of things,
right?
As a lifetime story,
yeah.
And you find ways around,
mm-hmm.
And now that's what Inflectra excels in, enabling this.
Right, and we've always tried to keep the price affordable, which is actually an interesting challenge, because we also have a commitment to transparent pricing. One of the things I really hated with other companies back in the day was, if you wanted to get a quote for a piece of software for say my old company,
send us an email.
Oh, and then you'd be negotiating for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you never know. And we do a special deal at the end of the month, and it was never very clear. And so we always said we're going to have the price on our website, and it's the same price, and it's transparent. You know exactly how much it's going to cost, how many users, and all the rest of it. But the problem we run into now, which is an interesting challenge, is we sell the same software in different countries, and the purchasing power in different countries is different. So the challenge, which we haven't fully cracked yet, is how do we price it so it's not too cheap in America and not too expensive in other countries? And that is a challenge. We haven't quite solved it. We're still working on it.
I don't think you will. I'm talking from experience in Mexico. There's some software solutions, even Netflix. If you pay it in Mexican pesos, it's totally a different amount than what you pay here in US dollars. And I don't know. In Argentina, I remember some services were like, it costs how much? Is it how cheap? Like poor Argentinians are in another
Right,
situation.
right. We actually have a few clients in Argentina. We're actually doing something similar. So we have to discount it. But the problem there is even to pay in dollars, they have to get permission from the central bank. And so a lot of these interesting things that when you do with international business, it's exciting and interesting, but it can be quite creative sometimes. How you can help customers, buy software, try it, and make sure they're still following the law, obviously. And so that it's you want to help people, but you also got to make sure that you're not causing problems for people.
Which countries are you at or having these situations?
The biggest one actually is Argentina right now, but also Egypt. Sometimes in
Mhm.
India, though it's gotten easier, that the central bank there's gotten a bit more, I think, streamlined in their processes. But yeah, it tends to be countries where the central bank is trying to limit the number of dollars going out, because the dollar got very strong this year because of the Fed raising rates, and so that
Hmm.
made it more difficult for certain countries. It really depends on the political, fiscal climate of the country. But I think Argentina is probably, unfortunately, one of the hardest right now. And we have several customers there that we're trying to figure out how we can make it work.
It's a crazy world out there lately. Post pandemic, a lot of things happened, and uh, I didn't foresee like what you are describing, those challenges and how things can get a little bit interesting. Because as a consumer, I always like, yeah, cheaper there, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, right.
But when you really think about like from the providers in Argentina, I was at a Starbucks and I'm like, how does even Starbucks work through this? Because they have to update prices daily. What are the rates that they receive? And
Right.
it,
Well, and they're buying coffee beans from producers, and the wholesale price of coffee beans is probably pegged in dollars. So then what do they do? The labor,
and they charge in Argentinian pesos, and it's
pesos.
like that's
Right,
an
right.
interesting thing on economics, how to deal with that. I
Externalize and arbitrage, and I mean a lot of some big companies like that trade commodities, they will have to hedge everything, but there's only so much you can do, because you have to be able to control all the parts, and if you're buying things on an open market, that price is somewhat set externally. And I think and the things when you start a business, when you start something, whether it's a software company or something else, there is a global market for it. In the old days, I mean, and that's pretty amazing. If you started a company 30 years ago, you could probably sell in your home country, and that gave the
or
US a
your
big
city or your state,
yeah. I
and
mean, if
that's
you're
it, right?
lucky, the US has a big advantage because it was a single big market, and Europe's gotten better with the EU, obviously, in the single market there. But nowadays, you can sell potentially software, a SaaS product, anywhere in the world, as long as you can deal with the financial, legal, nuances and things that we talked about. But you have a world market, which is amazing, really. You can
When
start a business in your bedroom, which is where I started it, and sell to customers in Australia, Europe, North America in the first week.
it's I don't know, all the implications that you never think about it, and I'm totally aware that we went through the economics tangent of things. um, it's when you don't think about it, it's impressive to see the big picture
Hmm.
of how many things. But one constant is that worldwide we have this situation that we need. Sometimes we don't have budget for testing, automation, and these
Sure.
solutions.
Right.
What is the Inflectra? What is the proposition, or how do you see helping, or what are the particular things that you do to help organizations?
So, well, first of all, in general, our pricing is on the, I would say, affordable side, just for any country and any user. That was one of the things we've decided. Another thing that's a little bit different for us is we don't license it by number of users, but by number of concurrent sessions. What we found was a lot of times companies have lots of people who need to use the software, but they need to use it for short periods of a day. For example, the testing team is going to use it all the time, but a manager wants to log in and look at a report or a dashboard. And many products will require everyone to have a license. And so, companies want to save money, so they won't do that. So what they'll do is they'll have people spend lots and lots of time generating Excel sheets and stuff, reports out of the system, and then it's just emailing it to people. So you destroy the whole value of the system, which is a central place to see everything, because people don't want to license it. So by making the licenses session-based, anyone can log in to view a report for 5 minutes. It doesn't need a separate license. So we've tried to do things to make it, I think, fairer and more flexible. That's one thing. Also, when we work with local partners, like you mentioned, in other countries, we do give them the autonomy to have different pricing if that country's purchasing power is lower, trying to do things that way. And then the last thing we've done is we are trying to actually, and this is not so much the purchasing side of things, we're trying to help education. So we actually partner as a company with universities and other educational institutions to give our software away for free, so people can learn software testing, test automation, test management, requirements, agile planning, all those different disciplines. And ironically, it's actually Buenos Aires in the city of Buenos Aires in Argentina is our most successful program. We're working there with the city government on a program they call Coda a Codo. And we've been working there for about 5 or 6 years now. And it's been very, very successful. But it's not a traditional educational program. It's not simply working with universities or high schools. It's actually working with adults who never got a chance to go to university and maybe work outside of the technology sector. And so this program actually is a adult continuing education program where they can come in the evenings and part-time, learn the skills, and they can move from a blue-collar manual working job to working in technology. They have about 100 and 200 graduates every year who formerly used to work for the city, like, fixing roads, or they had a manual job, selling groceries. And now they work for Accenture or Deloitte in Argentina.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty amazing. And they've done it by making sure that the curriculum is stringent, that the students have to work hard and commit to it. But when they do, they've actually had amazing outcomes. They've truly transformed their lives.
It's impressive that you are also enabling people, helping them to grow these free licenses. I love it to enable people, because there are some other softwares in the QA world, like not even to learn it is accessible.
Right.
If you don't know it, good luck. Maybe
Right.
you will be hired in a company that already has it.
Right.
And speaking of the software or capabilities in the QA realm, which ones are the ones that you see more demand, that are more important to,
You mean the types of software?
or types of QA, types of software?
Right.
Or
I try to avoid brand names because obviously I don't want to talk about other.
No, but from the intellectual perspective,
from
what
our
you get
side,
the
I'm
most.
sorry. Yes. Okay, I understand. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. In general, we it's interesting. Ironically, test automation everyone talks about, but the tools that we sell the most of the most, I think, market share of are actually more on the test management, requirements management, planning, dashboards, analytics, and visualization. We do a lot more of that than test automation. Partly because test automation, there's a lot of tools out there, first of all. The second thing is, developers, when they build the software, they're often going to want to write the automation in the same type of framework or same language that they're developing. So we find that the test automation commercial tools have the most benefit when you're dealing with testing a third-party system like Salesforce or SAP or ServiceNow, something where you can't control the development or you're not developing it. So we sell our automation tools to a lot of customers that are testing those complex systems. Whereas the test management, requirements tracking side of things, that's being used by customers in almost every industry. And the other thing that's quite interesting right now, we're seeing a lot more interest in formerly hardware industries that are becoming software. For example, automotive systems. Companies that used to make automotive systems that were principally gears, dashboards, things that you see in a car. Well, that's all software now. With electric vehicles, and the fact that most of the cars have displays that are basically like a giant iPad in the dashboard, a lot of the old manufacturers are having to reinvent themselves to be first and foremost software companies rather than just hardware product companies. The same thing with people who make fridges and IoT devices. As software becomes more integrated into everything being manufactured, there's a lot more people looking for tools like planning, large-scale planning tools, project management, testing, test management, data management, things that can track all the different parts and components in a modern car and how you test them all and know there's coverage. So we see a lot of demand in those industries, along with biotech industries.
In that area, you just got me thinking. It's super interesting because we generally just think, as a QA person that I have been in the industry for years, most of the demand is like these platforms, systems, web environments. But you just got me thinking. It was a big news a couple of years ago, the shortage of semiconductors.
Oh yeah, for the car
because
industry.
It's everywhere, and even like in the war, like they were stripping printers to put them on tanks and
that's right.
microchips.
That's right.
Microchips.
Yep.
It's there's so much work that is going to come out of those elements for the people listening. That's a good recommendation from Adam, because you're going to start to see more opportunities around these IoT
Embedded systems.
intelligent smart devices.
Yes, 100%.
I always make the joke that you can run some automations from a fridge because now they have computers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alexa, I hope anyone has it on right now and getting orders. Turn on the microwave. Did you ever heard of the Alexa microwave that you could just like start?
Oh wow, no, I've heard of someone accidentally doing something on Alexa they didn't mean to.
Oh, that's
Like,
common. Probably I just triggered some popcorn
that's true.
right now.
My
If
neighbor's
anyone
friend
has.
is called Alexa, so I feel bad for her. The other thing that's very interesting around the testing and the QA side is think of the implications. So if you test a website badly, what's the worst thing that can happen is the website goes down, right? And that is obviously a bad outcome. But we have customers that are testing pacemakers, like that have software implanted in someone's heart. If that doesn't work, someone will die. If a self-driving car mistakes a stop sign for a slow down sign or something, that car will crash. People will. So these types of IoT embedded software systems, they're very, very critical. And if the testing isn't done well, particularly for the QA audience, the people will die. The outcomes are catastrophic, and so the cost of not doing QA well is much, much higher than even testing traditional business applications, web apps, the big platforms that people are thinking about when it comes to testing.
It is really crazy because it's borderlining several life or death situations.
Airplanes,
Oh, that
aviation
one as well.
systems.
What was
the 737 Max?
The Max from Boeing? That
Yeah.
was huge news, and we all know how the development and QA went there. If you haven't heard, check some.
Right.
What was the development, and they were cutting corners, not doing QA,
And the requirements, they hid the requirements.
They were like silly requirements. I have seen some documentation there. I'm like, really? Is that like that's why? And that's life or death situations where we gotta be careful with QA, and that makes me wonder. Like, you had a talk today. You
That's
did
correct.
a presentation. What was the talk about, and does it correlate?
Yeah, the talk this time was called "Are you scaling agile or failing agile?" And this talk is really about taking agile methodologies and how do you take it from a methodology that was really designed around building small teams building independent software projects, to where we're looking at today, these exact situations that you talked about, like a car or an airplane. You may have hundreds of suppliers, each with hundreds of teams, all contributing code and systems to a combined whole. How is that coordinated and tested and specified? And who has the project backlog? Is there a single backlog for the whole plane? Is it each supplier doing their own thing? Obviously, neither is probably true. You can't have one. Boeing doesn't have one giant backlog for every single supplier that they will follow. No, that's micromanagement. That's not agile. On the other hand, every single supplier to Boeing can't have their own completely separate backlog because someone's got to coordinate it all. And so my talk was really about how do you have this, we call it like tight, loose coupling, so that you can have teams work autonomously, but someone is able to coordinate the greater whole and make sure that the end result is an integrated solution that actually works and delivers value, business value, and does it at scale. And I think that, to me, is what Scaled Agile is about. It isn't just about methodologies or frameworks or things you buy in a book. It's about taking what you do and what other people that you work with are doing, combining it together to create a better whole. And that was what the talk was about.
And that's the theme for this conference, because earlier on some other interviews, I always identify a theme. This is the one. Agile is not like following by the book or set of rules, blah. You need is again, I'm gonna say a tailor-suited jacket, suit, whatever, and
a custom suit,
custom
a bespoke suit, they say in Britain.
and yeah, that's because many organizations are getting crazy at like it has to be by the book. No, it doesn't, and that's why you fail at Agile. And how many stories have we heard about fragile and water fragile and all these failed attempts that they won't let go or they won't adapt or do it.
And Agile was always about improvisation and adaptation. I mean, the current Agile orthodoxy, even non-scaled Agile, came from people experimenting with extreme programming, experimenting with Scrum and Kanban and other ones that I've forgotten. And it all kind of got boiled together into what people most of the time mostly do. But it was always about experimentation and trying things. And I've gone to meetings with clients where they'll say, oh, we don't have requirements, we only have user stories. We do not have requirements, they're adamant. And requirements, a user story is a form of a requirement, and there are other forms.
It's, there are so many things that it's confused, or they want, it has to be named potato. No, it's a chip. Like, meh.
Right.
It's
or a crisp.
Or a crisp. Papita in Spanish.
That's right.
And there are a lot of confusions. I'm super happy that you are bringing this, shining the light on these situations. It sounds like in this conference, this is what many people are getting, like, and that's what they're coming to realize, figure out, and get the knowledge about. And that's what you're going to find the most. Agile is not like set in stone or one size fits all. You have to work through it, evolve, and as you say, keep changing. It's continuous. It's DevOps. It's all the components. Hasn't Doesn't have to be exactly Scrum, exactly Kanban, exactly. Now do what is better for your end goal.
Right.
Be careful and keep quality on it. Right.
Right.
Super important.
Exactly.
Okay, so we are already exceeding a little bit the time. Amigo Adam, if the people want to reach out to you and find out more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
Oh, absolutely. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Adam Sandman, and on the internet, www.inflectra.com. That's our company. And go to the About Us, you'll see my profile. And again, LinkedIn is where I'm at on a personal level. Inflectra.com is where the company's at. So thank you very much.
You can find more information. You can find a lot of the solutions that they are proposing. Take a look at those learning platforms that you mentioned.
Mhm.
I really am interested in those. Check it out because it's super important to learn some of these tools and principles. Amigo Adam, thank you so much for
Thank you for
coming.
having me on the show. Thank you.
It has been such a pleasure.
Thank you for watching and letting me be part of your day today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And everyone watching, we'll still be rolling. No, we need to run soon. Actually, we're gonna be walking around the conference area, getting our passport stamped. We missed a few stamps. Let's see if we can get on the raffle, and we'll see you around. Amigo Adam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Señor Performo out. Adios, and I'll see you in a bit.
Adios.